One of the things I've been trying to do with these videos is talk about ways of thinking about metal harmony that don't rely on traditional tonal harmony. This short video will be about what happens to harmony when you have chords with lots of distortion, with one of my favorite tracks from one of New York's many excellent black metal bands, Yellow Eyes. Before I talk about this very cool riff, I'm going to take a detour to give a very quick intro to acoustics. I know that when people bring up acoustics in public music analysis, it's often very basic pseudoscientific garbage, but hear me out. When we hear a single pitch, there's actually a lot going on. First, most sounds are combinations of many simpler sounds. When I play an open string on a guitar, you're actually hearing the string vibrate simultaneously at several pitches. String players know these as harmonics. So what sounds like one pitch is actually a stack of pitches. We call the lowest one of these the fundamental, and the ones above it, its overtones. How loud each of these overtones is contributes to what we hear as timbre, which is how we can tell one instrument from another when they're playing the same pitch. For example, an acoustic guitar has one overtone profile, and a Fender Rhodes has another, and a voice has another. That's one complicated thing. Another is that how your ears and brain make sense of pitch is also complicated. The thing that matters for this video is that if your brain hears higher overtones for a given pitch, it will generally fill in the lower ones even if they're not physically present, as in a machine measuring them would say that they're not there. Among other things, this is how laptops and phones have gotten better and better sound over the years. They trick us into thinking there's more bass in the sound than there actually is, but we know that they can't be creating as much bass as it sounds like they are because the speakers are physically too small. A similar thing happens with bells, like big old-fashioned church bells. The way that the overtones mix means that we hear tones that are not actually physically present, and the overtones mix in complex ways that don't line up neatly with a single fundamental. They really sound super crazy if you pay attention to them. A kind of similar thing happens with distorted electric guitars in the sense that the overtones are very loud. More importantly, and finally making my way back to riffs, I think the guitars at the start of old Alpine Pang sound like bells. Part of this is the fact that the field recording intro has bells in it. And part of it is the riff, which is this super cool tetrachord containing E flat, D, A, and B flat, letting all of those complex, distorted, dissonant overtones ring together as they do in bells. And it's also played in a rhythm that feels bell-like to me. And finally, it's set off from the rest of the song, like a second introduction or a fanfare, or the setting for some sort of ritualistic procession. So far, I've basically pointed out that the guitars in this riff sound like bells. And it's not just this riff that reminds me of bells. If you're listening for it, it's a recognizable trope in black metal, where the washy, distorted guitars playing dissonant intervals have a lot in common with the sound of bells, and a few of them actually have bell sounds. Here are some examples that I like. So electric guitars can make sounds with some of the same overtone-rich sounds as bells, especially with tremolo picking or let ring dissonant chords, where these overtones mix in chaotic ways. But the reason I think this is especially cool in a black metal song has to do with what bells have meant in the history of Western sonic imagination. From Edgar Allan Poe,
"Hear now the alarm bells, brazen bells. What tale of terror now their turbulency tells? In the startled air of night, how they scream out their affright. Too much horrified to speak. They can only shriek out of tune in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, with a desperate desire and a resolute endeavor. Now to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells. What a tale their terror tells.
To the German philosopher Bernahrd Siegert.
Bells mark the border between sanity and madness, between the sobriety and frenzy, between the state of normalcy and the state of emergency in the case of war or natural catastrophes, between God and man, between life and death. Bells represent and signal a state of emergency in symbolic order, because they are this state of emergency in the acoustical realm.
It's enharmonic acoustic color sounds which command the Western man to the borders of reason, of and of his earthly finiteness, had always already opened up an abyss within the European culture of sound.
Say what you want, but German media theory is pretty metal. Bells, and sometimes distorted electric guitars, are anti-order both in what they mean, emergency, and how they sound, with their chaotic tangles of noisy and illusory overtones. All this is to say that I think a cool way of hearing this opening riff is as using field recordings, harmony, rhythm, and timbre, and lyrics and artwork, to tap into this rich web of associations, all of which point to chaos, disorder, ritual, paganism, and the unknown. I may have crossed the line from music theory into musicology in this video, but who cares, it's a silly border. If you've made it this far, you have my sincere thanks. And maybe if you're a real fan of bells, press that bell icon so that you get notifications when I post new videos. See ya.